Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Kind Health Group podcast and YouTube channel. We have an amazing guest with us today, the fabulous Wendy Snyder. Hi, Wendy. I've known Wendy forever, like 20-something years, and we go way, way back. And Wendy is someone we all want to hear from today. She's going to save our lives. She's going to save the day. So, Annie, will you please do the honors of introducing Wendy? Thank you.
I would love to. Wendy Snyder is a certified positive parenting educator, a family life coach and advocate. She is certified in redirecting children's behavior and the Joy of Parenting program. Wendy founded her online business, Fresh Start Family, so that she could spread the message of positive parenting across the world. She is a developer of 2 online positive parenting courses and also has a monthly membership program to further support families. Wendy helps families parent with great purpose and intention by creating healthy and respectful and cooperative relationships. Welcome, Wendy.
Woo! Thanks for having me, ladies. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, so we are excited to have you. So how are you doing? Let's just start there.
Yeah, you know what? I'm doing good. I was just journaling this morning, and it's funny that you asked me that because I was working on this answer. And so my answer is I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm healthy. The kids are healthy. We're navigating this whole crazy world and, trying to figure out how to juggle the work at home life with kids being home all the time. And it's wild, but it's wonderful and we're good. That is my answer right now. 2 days ago, I would have said something different, like it's crazy, we're busy, and blah, blah, blah. But now I'm getting used to saying, no, we're good, we're healthy, we're doing okay.
Good, I like the
So Wendy, will you start us off just a little bit and tell us a little bit about your story and how you ended up in this field helping families?
Yes, I'd love to. So, oh my goodness. So it's a funny story that I'm here with you girls today and Georgine, because my story actually starts back when, I was seeing Georgine. I would come in with my 2 little kiddos. Actually, Stella, my daughter, was 3 at the time, and my son was just a newborn. And I would come into Georgine's office, this kind of like frazzled mom, and I was just kind of a mess. I had not gotten the memo that parenthood was going to kick my butt so much. I really thought going into it that I was going to be able to just, conquer the world. Terry and I, my husband and I, got really lucky very young. We fell in love when we were like 17, 18 years old. And we had this mentality that if you work hard and you put your mind to things, you can accomplish anything that you want, right? And then we had kids and we realized that it was just a lot harder than we expected it was going to be, especially because we got gifted this beautiful, strong-willed little soul, my Stella, who was 3 at the time. So back then I remember going into Georgine's office and just being like, she'd say, how you doing? I'd be like, oh, I'm fine. We need our vaccines today and Stella's killing me. And she would just hug me and say, are you sure you're okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And so thank God that was about the same time that I discovered the work of positive parenting. And it just completely changed our lives. It changed the way we saw our strong-willed little girl, the way we saw parenting, the way we approached every single challenge that came our way with a strong-willed little girl, and then also a colicky baby. I got blessed with 2 colicky babies. Do you remember that, Georgine?
Oh yeah, yes. I remember how difficult it was for you, and it was just, parenting does your butt, especially in the beginning when you don't know what's coming for you.
Yes. And so the colicky babies and the strong-willed personality that we weren't expecting. I should have expected it. I mean, it comes from me. The apple doesn't fall far is a funny, saying in the parenting world. But yeah, it just really surprised me. And thank God I found this work. So I ended up taking a local positive parenting class here in Encinitas, California. And the light just started to come back to my days. I was able to learn how to speak to my daughter differently, how to work with her, how to discipline her differently, and just how to navigate the highs and lows with integrity. And after a few years of doing that class, because I would go back over and over again, I went and I would love the concepts, but then I would come home and I I would think to myself, like, this is impossible. Like, I need this teacher to come live with me, because she doesn't realize like how gnarly my little girl is, or how much drama we have going on. And of course, at the time I thought it's all my daughter, it's not me. And so I would just keep going back. So I went back to that class for probably 2.5 years consistently. I probably took the course Redirecting Children's Behavior, I think 7 times by the time my kids were done with preschool. And towards the end, I said, I think I'm finally fluent in this, and I really want to teach other parents. So I went on to become a certified parenting educator, and then decided one day that instead of teaching locally, I wanted to build out programs online so I could really kind of preach it from the mountaintops and help families from all over the world, no matter how small of a town they were in. So that's when I founded Fresh Start Family. And now I have the honor and pleasure of helping thousands of families every year through my online programs. I do a lot of, free workshops throughout the year, so people get to be introduced to what positive parenting is. And then after they get introduced and they fall in love with it, like I did, they get to step into my programs. I have a few online positive parenting courses. I have a online membership program that is kind of like a Netflix for parents, I say. So they can walk in and continuously walk the walk, right? So we all know that any good thing in life, whether it's like healthy eating, exercise, taking care of your health, like it's not just a one and done thing. Like you really need a support system to continuously apply what you learn and stay accountable and all those things. So that's what the membership is all about. And I just love it. I am so passionate about this work. And in the end, what I do is basically, I realized over the years from, like I said, helping so many families who have a similar story to mine, is I help families end painful generational cycles by building out their toolkit, their parenting toolkit, so they can create family legacies that they are proud of.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I love that you're there to help them. I love that you walk with them. That's kind of exactly like our program for the health coaching. What are people talking to you about right now? I mean, I'm sure you're probably in demand even more now. I'm sure your families are reaching out to you more that were in a stay-home order. What's the biggest struggle right now for families?
Yes. So I meet with my membership group every week. We have a live coaching component of the Bonfire membership group. And it is across the board. Even my parents who are very fluent and able to handle the highs and lows with grace and compassion and all these things after practicing for a long time, because it does take practice. We always say practice makes progress, not perfect. So, the underlying foundation of the work here at Fresh Start Family is we set families up for success on how to handle the challenges when they come, because if you're raising small human beings, you will not have perfection, right? I don't care how amazing your kiddo is. There's going to be times when he pushes someone on the block, or he throws sand in the sandbox, or he gets a call from the teacher, or you get a note sent home, right? So even the families who I work with really closely and have been doing this work for a long, long time are struggling. So across the board, the answer is, Annie, that everyone is struggling. And I think it's starting to even out a little bit as people get used to it. And so we're just doing a ton of work on really self-care and taking care of yourself and being able to detach, which I think we're gonna talk a little bit about later. I think you have some more questions for me about how to deal with it all right now. But really the struggle is this is just crazy. This is chaos. I don't know how to, manage full-time jobs with the kids home 24/7. I can't even flip and go to the local park. Like, how do I get out? Like, emotions are heightened. And when emotions are heightened, and we are stressed as parents, the kids feel that they are stressed. So overall, I think if you're feeling like that as you're listening, just know you're normal. Very rarely will I get someone when we do our polls and do our live coaching every week who's like, you know what, we're doing really well. We're good. Like, most people are like, okay. And we do have a lot of success stories. Every week we have success stories that come in where families share like, hey, I applied this strategy. It worked great. And I feel really good about myself as I lay my head on my pillow at night. Those success stories continue to come in throughout this craziness that we're in right now. However, our group is pretty vulnerable and real with each other. And so they share that, holy smokes, today was hard. I yelled 1,000 times, and then I apologized 1,000 times, and then I caved on my limits, and then I was too firm on my limits. It's a lot of highs and lows. And so, yeah, that's kind of what's going on.
What do you recommend? Let's start from the top. What do you recommend for parents who maybe don't speak this language? Can they start now? Is this a terrible time to start now? Is this the best time to start now? Yeah. What do you say to parents? And how do you recommend parents to sort of get an escape, or how to calm down in the moment, because we're all in confined spaces?
Yes. So to the first question is absolutely, it's a great time to start. Anytime you're feeling like there's an imbalance in your life or stress in your life, it's always a great time to start. It doesn't matter. Like, I think with anything, whether it's like taking care of your health, whatever, we'll make a lot of excuses, right? Like, well, now's not a good time, or I don't have time, or all these type of things. But I find that if you don't just start, then you often will put it off for years and years. I just got a Instagram DM this morning from a sweet mama who said, I've been following you for years now, she said, and my little boy's 5, and he's one of those strong-willed power kids you talk about a lot. I call them cacti. And she said, I just feel like I'm losing out on all this time, and I'm not able to find joy in my days. And she was really emotional, and she said, I just feel like a failure, like I've missed out on all these years. And here's someone who's been following me for years, but she's never actually stepped into the learning, right? She's been following along, like social, like here's my encouragement, but she's never really stepped into it. So yeah, you do have to actually step into it, right? You have to either, a book is a great place to start, my blogs, our podcast. We have a show called the Fresh Start Family Show, but actually stepping into an actual program. Another free resource I have is June 8th. We start, hopefully, I think, this will be published by then. June 8th, we have a free 5-day mini course that starts, where you get little tiny video lessons delivered to your email every day. And at the end of the week, so June 8th through June 12th, at the end of the week, you actually feel like you've got a little base foundation of what this work is about, how to understand the psychology behind it, what it teaches us to do, how to redirect our kids up and out of misbehavior towards the light. And I find that that's just a great way to get in. So families can register for that over on the website, freshstartfamilyonline.com. And then as far as like what we can do to get our, to calm ourselves down or get space from the kids, it's tricky, right? It's going to be different for every single family, depending on what age your kids are, depending on where you live. I'm lucky. My kids are older. They're 9 and 12. So they're pretty much self-managed now with as far as homeschool and stuff. But I know a lot of listeners might have really little kids where it might be impossible to actually sneak away. So I think you just have to be really like intense with each morning, saying that I deserve to take care of myself today. And we always, we talk about, as parents, anytime you're taking care of small human beings, if you don't fill up your own bucket, you literally cannot care for other human beings. It's like being on an airplane where, they always say if something happens, God forbid, you have to put your oxygen mask on yourself before you can save your child. And so right now, like, it's just, we've got to speak up for ourselves and say, dude, I got to go take a jog. I know you're busy and I'm busy, but I got to go. Like, I need 30 minutes alone. Or, you might need to lock yourself in the bathroom for 5 minutes and say, I'm not available. Or just let the kids watch a little extra TV, have grace on yourself, but do something that's going to pour into you, and make sure you're noting it as you're taking care of yourself. Even if it's buying a $5 bouquet at Trader Joe's, and not because you need flowers for the table, but because you deserve to have joy in your life and you deserve to be fed into. That's just one idea, but I could go on and on about that.
Quick question. I don't want to get off topic, but you mentioned giving the kids a little extra TV time. This is a major struggle right now. I mean, I know a lot of kids are on video games. The distance learning is maybe not structured the same for every school. Kids are watching more TV. I mean, I would love them to be outside all the time, but realistically, we've closed beaches, we've closed parks. It's a little bit harder. So what do you say, and what is your community expressing about social media? And this might be for a little bit older kids, but video gaming and extra TV time and being plugged in. Not what we want, but it's happening.
This is such a good question because it's really, really important because, you know, as we're talking about parenting, the basis of anyone that steps into parenting work is they want their kids to listen well and behave better, right? Or cooperate more. And unfortunately, tech is something we have to look at in correlation to children's misbehavior or behavior. And like we said, we've got to find that middle ground where we're not like killing ourselves and never letting our children watch TV or whatever. So, but there's a really good book called Reset or Detox Your Child's Brain. It's written by an MD, and it's just phenomenal. It's over on we have a shop page on the website on freshstartfamilyonline.com where you can go and look at like all the recommended resources. But that one's a good one where she talks about how it does affect these little kids' brains, and some of them are more reactive than others. And really what I've found over the years and what I've learned from that book and a few other people that I adore listening to is that every time our children are on the devices or the TV, we have to realize that it creates a nature deficit, right? So I know some people live in the city and they can't just push their kids out the door or in the backyard, but really, like you said, Annie, whenever we can get them outside, it actually benefits their behavior. When they hear the birds sing, when they, you know, nature soothes all of our souls, but especially our children's. So anytime they can see the clouds, smell breath, you know, oxygen in their lungs, it actually will, you know, do good things for their behavior. Whereas every time they're on devices, it creates a nature deficit. So with that said, you have to find the middle ground, but I'm very passionate about helping my community try their best to get off of the interactive devices as much as possible. I think, you know, the traditional TV stuff, especially right now, like, and we all have all these resources. Many of people have these resources like Netflix. Now Disney has like Discovery. My little guy who's 9 has fallen in love with like history shows. Like, dude, let them binge on the history shows. It's okay. Like that kind of stuff is what I encourage parents, like set firm rules and say, I'm not gonna, you know, it's not okay that you just watch whatever all day. But here's some options for you. Here's what you can watch when mom has a Zoom call. And you'll find joy in this, right? Like, trust me, it's cool. Introduce them to new things like that. And then in my humble opinion, my opinion means nothing, but we don't do video games. We don't. And I know, you know, that doesn't mean that's right or wrong for you. But for me, it's you know, it's just the interactive devices is where I think creates some of the mind captivation and stress, kind of puts kids into that red zone a little bit too much. And then I find in my community, there's a lot of arguments, a lot of power struggles, a lot of blow-ups, a lot of reactivity that moves into punishment. And it's all a lot of the times it's over ending video games. A lot of times now kids are having these video games be social interactions, like games like Fortnite. Like they're not just, you know, I used to call it pretend murder, but they're not pretend murdering all day. They're actually doing it with their friends, right? So they become very entrenched in it, and that's all they want to do, right? Because it's it's firing off these like pleasure genes or these pleasure, you know, neurons. I don't even know. You should talk to this, Georgine. But it's like creating this thing that, yeah.
It's those dopamine neurotransmitters that are firing off. Yes, you're right. You're 1,000% right. I'm captivated by everything you're saying. Keep going.
I know, right? So thank you for giving me the right language. So that's what I encourage parents to really pull back on. And if you know, if you kids love it and you already have it and you're not like, I'm not going to pull it away, then just be really firm with your limits. We have a really easy to follow 4-step firm and kind process here that helps parents set firm limits, because positive parenting is not about being permissive, and follow through with consistency. So it's like, set the firm limits. If, you know, they're allowed to have an hour or two on the weekends, go ahead, let them have it, but then don't let it become a binge thing. Do the TV for that. I'm like old school. I remember back in the day, people were worried about too much TV time for kids. Now I'm like, in my opinion, TV, like, okay, but just not the interactive stuff, especially because most of our kids are learning 24/7 on these interactive devices where the same thing's going on in their mind every time they get a math problem, right? It dings. It's like, it's just an interesting thing that I think we're all going to have to look at as it develops over the next few decades, is what is going to be the result of all that stuff. But video games is something I do encourage pulling back on. TV, give yourself lots of grace on it. Find some shows that are kind of that middle ground and just not the mindless stuff.
a lot of the members of your community talking about social media and let's say like TikTok? Maybe it's a little bit of an older age bracket, but you know, watching other people doing things, trying to copy them, being influenced by them.
Yes.
What's up, TikTok?
Yep. So yeah, there's a gentleman that I love to recommend. His name is Colin Kratzner. His name is super weird to spell. You'll have to just Google it and find him on Instagram. But his work really has, oh my gosh, his hashtag is called Save the Kids. And he's all about getting these kids off of social media. So it's really hard, parents, I know. And it's really important that you try your best to just step into this world and educate yourself and try to pull them back as much as possible or keep them off. So for example, just speaking personally, in our home, my daughter's 12 and she really struggles with our rules around this. And she's not allowed to have a TikTok account. She helps me create TikToks for my business. That's a new thing to kind of help ease the burden on her little soul, because she's just like, Mom, this sucks. And she helps me create it. She actually I hired her to do that for me, and we have fun together doing it, but she's not allowed to have an account because there are dangers that parents just don't realize. They think it's like this app that's just, you know, fun, but it's really not. And Colin Kratzner, if you go find him on Instagram, he'll educate you on all the reasons why the detrimental effects social media can have on these developing brains. But right now during quarantine, it seems like it would be this innocent thing for kids to just kind of mindlessly be on there, but it's really important that you try to, like, again, if you already have it going, at least limit it. We're here at Fresh Start Family, we're firm believers in no devices in the bedroom. No devices in the bedroom. Like, if you want to be on a device, you got to be out in the living room where you're socializing and your dad can accidentally look over your shoulder or whatever it is, not with an intention to check on you and externally monitor you or control you, but to just be in social interaction, right? We want our children developing brains that are able to communicate in like a human way, not like this where they're alone and they're getting this false sense. So
what are some activities that you've heard from your community that people are out there doing? Like, where have the successes been? What can we do right now that gets us outside, moving, doing something with our kids that's actually allowed? Where are the successes?
Oh, I know. Well, again, just sharing some things that I've really loved in our own family and seeing in my community too is definitely like the family hikes, if you can get out there and do that kind of stuff. Music and creativity, which will come if you limit the interactive devices, right? So that was one of the cool things I saw a few weeks ago that I was just like in awe because again, Stella's 12 and most of her friends have untethered devices, untethered social media accounts, and they're on it 24/7. So even when we have, like, she had her 11th birthday party, we went bowling, and like 4 out of 10 kids were just on their devices the whole time. And it was really fascinating for me to watch. So, you know, a few weeks ago, we were hanging out, obviously in quarantine, and it was like another day, she was begging me for TikTok, and it was another day where I was like, no, honey, here's why, and here's the empathy, but no, the answer is no. And then that day, she just kind of like did a big sigh and she went downstairs and she created a board game. It took her 3 days to make this board game, and it was all about aliens versus someone. She made the little creatures out of clay. Like, it was so rad to see. And then of course, as soon as she started to do that, her little brother started to do that, and it was just so cool to see in the absence of the technology 24/7, which again took the firm limits, which are hard to stick to. You have to be okay being an outsider. She was able to like really just have this creative outlet where she was bored, and from the boredom came creativity. And same thing happened with music. Her and her dad built out our garage. I now have 0 space in my house, literally, because our garage is fully converted. Half is my office, and half is now Stella's band room. She's a drummer, and my son plays the electric guitar, and so they've been like creating music videos every night, and that's been really fun. So just, I hope that like helps get ideas going. But, you know, family hikes, bike rides. One more thing about that is a lot of times your kids will be like, no, I don't want to go. And you just have to be like, we're going, right? Like there's no option here. And it's a give and take, right? Like I'll do something you want to do later this weekend. We'll have some time together. And this is something that's on my list. It's a give and take. We're a family, we're a team unit, and sorry, like we're going to go. And then normally what happens is once you're on the hike and they find a lizard or a cool mountain to jump off of, whatever, like most of the time they're like, this is amazing. But it's just in the beginning, you have to be willing, you have to be able and willing to push through the resistance with integrity. Not if you don't go, you're not having screen time, which is.
Well, and that's a great question though. So let's say you have a little bit older children in teenage mode and they're a little bit more willful. How do you get them to go without threatening, taking away? You know, I mean, you've got 2 that want to go and 3 and 4 don't want to go.
Always, right?
Right. What's the language for that now? Because you've got 1 day off, you want to get outside, you know it's the best place for them to be, and everyone is no, or 3 of them are no.
Yeah. So this is where you really want to start reorganizing your family as a team unit, right? So, and this takes practice. This takes a while. It's not going to happen overnight. Like if you're used to giving threats, which is an example, is like just an if-then statement, which I think I just had it shared a new IGTV over on my Instagram, Fresh Start Wendy, about this yesterday, actually, of letting go of threats. What does it look like? And a lot of parents don't even realize when they're doing if-then statements, it's just threats, right? Like for little ones, the 3, 2, 1, it's just a threat. So I think as soon as people become aware of that, then they have the ability to change it. So if you don't do this, then this will happen. If you don't go for the hike, then you're not, like your device is getting taken away, right? Instead, there's 2 things you can do. One of them is sequencing, which is just basically teaching your kids that, you know, as a human being, you do things first and then you do things second. So in the morning, I take a shower and then I go to work. When I went to work, we will go back to work one day. You know, first you wash your hands and then you eat dinner. You know, first you buckle your seatbelt and then you drive a car, right? So that's where I encourage parents to say, I know you guys want to have screen time, or you want to watch your show, or you want to watch a movie, and not but is something I love to coach parents on. But negates what you just said, and is like, and we need to get some outdoor time, because always tell kids why. Instead of just it's my way or the highway, tell them your brain, your developing beautiful brain will feel so much better later in the day if you get it some vitamin D, if you get it some oxygen. In order for my cup to be filled up, I need to have some special time with you. I want to hold your hand. I want to hear about your week. Like, this is something we do together and it fills my cup, and then it probably will fill your cup too. And then later we can watch the TV or have the games. So that will help, because a lot of us that have power kids, which are these strong-willed kids, a lot of them are just like us. And if they feel like you're forcing them or pushing them, they'll just push back. And then you end up having to threat, so to speak, having to threaten them. And so you want to pull back on the forcing of you have to go, and just sitting down and saying, hey, this is important to me. And we're going to get to do it all. Like, we're going to get to have playtime later, or game time, or you're going to get to play on the block. And first, we got to go do this. So that's one idea. And then there's more, but it's too much.
Talk to me a little bit about structuring your day now, or your community's days. Obviously, we're home, we're doing distance learning, there is no school, there are no camps, there are no sports, there are no music classes, and the days are long. And how are you going about it? What advice are you giving families? What's your community saying about structuring their day and getting through it?
Yeah, well, I think if you have especially younger kids, or I think kids of any age, family agreements are great. Like, if you can just get the family to sit down and do 5 minutes each morning to say, hey guys, here's what we're doing. You know, we're going to, you know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing. We're going to take a break at 5. If you can do an encouragement feast in the morning, it's something we teach at Fresh Start Family, is like, one thing I love about you. And then the person goes, one thing I love about you, to the next person. It can take like 2 minutes, and then it comes back around and say, one thing I love about myself. That's kind of fun thing to do once a week, just to build team. I always recommend that for kids in sports too. But if you can do a family meeting in the morning, make some agreements when everybody's in a calm state, right? Like, everyone's had a full night's rest. they're feeling good, they're like ready for the day, and agreements will take, especially those power kids who have a tendency to push back and say, I don't want to do my schoolwork anymore, and get them on board with the process. And once they're on board with the process, they're a whole lot more likely to actually follow through with what you're asking of them than if you just say, you know, like if you just go right into work and then later say, tough, you have to do this. If you've talked about it first thing in the morning over oatmeal and coffee, or, you know, a nice breakfast you just made them, it just goes a lot better. And so family agreements, family meetings are a great place to start. But also it's just so important that everyone has so much grace on themselves. Like, it is just messy, you guys. Like, I haven't been having family meetings every morning. We've been okay. We haven't had to, right? But just have grace on yourself. Like, there is no perfection going on in anyone's home. I'm a positive parenting educator. There's a lot of days where it's like, oh my gosh, that was a nightmare. Or like there was an argument, or I raised my voice. So just be graceful on yourself and know that it's not going to be perfect. And every day is an opportunity just to learn from what didn't go well yesterday, and then make a choice to make different decisions today. You don't need to be a better parent today. You just need to make different choices that'll get you more to what you want, which is more joy, peace, connection.
Have you found strategies just don't work right now?
Some strategies don't work right now. Well, I mean, I'm always going to say like the fear and force long-term sustainably doesn't work, but it's no different right now. So I'm trying to think if there's anything that wouldn't work right now. I mean, yeah, I don't know about that one.
Talk a little bit about fear and force for a second. So if people don't know what that necessarily means.
So I like to use that general umbrella just to kind of describe anything that's externally controlled that often includes the goal of like intimidation or scaring our kids, which if we're being honest, that's usually what is behind a lot of the threats or the traditional punishment. So I know when I became a parent, what I think all of us inherit, and this was definitely true for my case, was the general four. Like you don't need anyone to teach you how to use fear and force, which I'll go into a little bit more here in a second, or do bribery and rewards. It's like baked into your DNA. Like I just knew how to like, you know, intimidate Stella when she was little, or, you know, take my hands and force her down. Like, you know, I don't know. It just came very naturally to me. Like if I was challenged by a situation, I could go really easy into overpowering and controlling and like intimidating. And the or bribery and rewards was like, yeah, like give her a jelly bean and she'll stay in her bed, which was not true long term either. So anyways, that stuff kind of just came naturally to me. So to switch it up is where I actually needed the coaches and the support and the curriculum. But the fear and force is basically anything, like I said, that's going to drive your child's behavior based on them being intimidated or scared of some type of external thing that you're going to, you know, lay the smack down or take something away because, you know, as adults, you know, we're 4 times their size and we have all the money, they have no money. There's like definitely a disadvantage. They're down here and we're up here. So of course we can overpower them or intimidate them, right? And now as kids get older, that starts to work less and less. I see it all the time. I saw it in my own brother. I even saw it in myself. As kids become teenagers, if you don't have that relationship-based model, if you aren't fully connected, if your kids really don't feel like they belong, like they are valuable, like they are fully unconditionally loved in your family, then there's a good chance that they'll start, you know, doing some things that are maybe not in your face, like, you know, kids that are in traditional fear and force model homes, they often get really good at lying. They really get good at hiding things, and they might get straight A's and do really well in sports, but behind closed doors, when mom and dad aren't there to externally control things or threaten them, or, you know, they'll often, you know, do stuff that just makes us want to throw up at night, right? Or scared to death that they're going to get hurt. So that's kind of fear. Force is just physically like, you know, restraining, laying hands on, like anything that you're literally forcing them to do something. And that can also come through fear. So that's kind of a nutshell. And then bribery and rewards doesn't need an explanation, but that's kind of the traditional setup that I help parents get out of and do it a different way, because in the long term, it's just exhausting, right? Like I think parenthood is exhausting no matter what. When you're you're raising human souls, it's just this like 18 plus years of like total of service, right? Like you're just giving yourself. And so if you're going to be exhausted, you might as well be really like proud of yourself and inspired by the way you handled yourself, and know that you treated your children just like you would treat your grandma or your neighbor or your best friend or your sister's kids, than be exhausted because you had to threaten your kids all day, or you had to, do all these things because your kids are like not able to be good humans without you having to do all those things, right? That's just, for me, that's an exhausting way to live. That is not fulfilling for human beings in the long run.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. And then you like throw in some hormonal shifts, and next thing you know, the doors are slamming, or they're suddenly crying in tears over, I don't know, a bagel dropping on the ground. Like you don't know what's coming sometimes.
Yeah.
Or what to sort of, what language to use when you walk into the house and you have no idea what to expect because suddenly the whole room has shifted.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good point, Annie, about just like one of the many tools we practice. You have to practice it. It's just like a muscle, right? Is empathy, right? So we learn in this work that when kids are misbehaving, they're just trying to communicate. They're not being naughty. This is like the psychology of Dr. Rudolph Dreikers that a lot of this work is based on. But all of us as human beings, we're all trying to communicate. And sometimes we communicate in unhealthy ways, especially if you've got kids that are hormonal or tweens or teens or whatever, or you are, right? So it's important just to like try to have that be your first go-to. So we practice a lot of self-calming, a lot of detachment, and then empathy becomes like our first go-to, which then when you're not reactive with your kids, you're actually able to problem solve and also effectively, and you also don't take on issues that aren't yours. So like if you have a kid that's just being grouchy or is hormonal, you become better at just being okay with them not being okay, but you can still have a great afternoon, right? You can still have a great evening, and you don't become so attached, which then often will cause power struggles, which then blows up into like this awful evening of meltdown and tears. So detachment, empathy is a great thing to keep in mind and build out that practice, which again, just takes time and vulnerability.
What is going on with your community as far as, I'm looking, I mentioned your calendar, I'm looking at my calendar. We've got summer coming. There's camps. We're somewhat limited on options. And as parents, we're kind of going into this with, I'm going to say fear. I'm trying to figure out what is going to happen, how I'm going to get through every day. What's your community saying, and what do you recommend?
Yeah, well, I think, as things change, right? Every state is different, every city is different, but, as things change, I just encourage parents that if you need help, get the help. Like if you just cannot expect to work 2 full-time jobs with toddlers. Like in my opinion means nothing, but go, if you haven't seen your mom or your dad and they live locally in 2 or 3 months and you are literally dying every day with toddlers at home, trying to have 4 Zoom calls a day and do projects, ask your parents to watch the kids for a little bit. In my opinion, it's time to start, intermingling in that way, or hire a babysitter. Like if there's a babysitter on the block, like that to me is essential. I think the stress of trying to manage it all is just too much for humans to bear. And then there's going to be, I think, a whole, like you guys are the experts on this, but stress is like, it creates a whole nother bag of problems, right? Which I think makes us more susceptible to getting sick. So be willing to invest in some help if you need it. And also something we always try to look at here at Fresh Start Family, especially in our membership group lately, is really try to see what the blessings are in the situation. So I know it's hard, and this is different than looking on the bright side, right? I think that is something that becomes exhausting to hear, right? It's like, whatever, I don't want to look at the bright side. This is like lame. This is awful. But really there are so many blessings that are happening, but you have to have the eyes to see, right? Like so many parents before this happened were so stressed out with the amount of sports practices on weekends and kids just like coming and going and never stopping and having to be at school. I mean, I can't tell you how many questions our membership group gets on having to get their kids to preschool by 7:30 a.m. so they can be to work by 8:30 a.m. And now that's not happening, right? Like you have these slow mornings with your children where you get to connect and build relationship and be together and be this part of their life. And it's hard to develop that practice of seeing the light in the situation. But if you try each day, if you maybe journal each day, or you take 10 minutes in the evening to jot down some things that went well today, you will find that there's a lot through this experience that we will never experience again. That is going to be a gift in our lifetime if we allow it to be. And there's a lot of hardships, but.
What is the one thing you miss the most for your family?
Oh gosh, I know what it is. It's surfing and being in the ocean. Like, oh my gosh, that's been a real, life source for my husband and I, is just getting in the ocean and having time to like exercise alone as parents. Our kids are older now, so we can still go for a jog. But here in San Diego, we've had this super weird red tide. Of course, the beach and the ocean was closed for 2 months. Now it's open, but it's like swimming in root beer. But our family gets a lot of joy from being on the beach. Like that is our happy spot. We love to creature hunt. We love to go on low tides. That's one of the few places that I can fully be present with my kids. I'm such like a busybody and I am happiest. This is awful, but I'm like happiest when I'm in my work. I could work like 15 hours a day and be like just zoned out, right? So I have trouble being present sometimes. And when I'm at the ocean with my kids, either searching for sand crabs or starfish, or just watching them surf or play in the ocean, or surfing with my husband, that is like pure joy to me. And I think that's something we've really, it's like a nature deficit. We are in a nature deficit right now. Even though we're jogging every day, it's not the same for us. We're like fish. Snyder family we're fish. We need to go.
So weren't you guys in Hawaii when all of this started?
That's true. We were. We had joined Terry. Terry's a creative director, and we had joined him for a trip. He had a photo shoot, and we just were like, it was the very beginning. So we were trying to figure it out, and we were like, let's just stay. And so we did stay like an extra 2 weeks on the North Shore of Hawaii. And I think it set us up for success because it was a very bonding thing. We had to work every day still, but we got in the ocean every single day. We swam with sea turtles every single day. There was literally whales jumping out of the ocean in front of our face. It was crazy. So yeah, that's our happy spot.
I feel like I didn't realize how dependent I was on school and structure and sports. My son plays a lot of sports and thrives in that community, and not having that has been really hard. So when I think about it, yes, I was always driving around and making it to practice and trying to get to school on time, but I miss the social component, and that outlet I think is probably the hardest to, like, when things change, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to sign you up for every sport possible. So every day you're in something.
Yeah.
I don't want to, but I see where he just needs it. He wants it. It would be great for him. So I feel like this, not having organized sports is really hard. Has your community expressed any, whether it's piano lessons or art classes or Girl Scouts or something where that social component is missing?
Yes. Well, this is how it pans out for my communities, because I teach parenting, is it pans out in misbehavior. And I'm always reminding my community is, remember guys, our kids are stressed, and a 5-year-old or a 9-year-old, even a 12-year-old, like Stella, my daughter, because she's been in this family practicing this work now for a decade, she is very emotionally her emotional literacy skills are insane. Like, I'm like, wow, this is so cool. But even she will not look at me and be like, Mom, I feel so sad that, I can't have my 6th grade graduation. Like, that's not how kids communicate. They'll just be grouchy or pissy, or, toddlers will pull the dog's tail, and, it comes out in misbehavior. So that's why it's so important as parents to remember that anytime our kids are emotional, having a tantrum, misbehaving, we've always got to get underneath the misbehavior. Like, what is going on underneath of that? And empathy will help. In that 5-day free mini course that I'm doing June 8th, we'll actually study the underlying root causes of misbehavior. So over those 5 days, I teach families like when you have a child misbehaving, how do you actually look at that and say, oh, this kiddo is seeking to feel powerful right now, which is a human healthy need, or they're seeking attention, or they just don't feel like they can do this anymore. That would be inadequacy or avoidance, or they're feeling revengeful because they're feeling hurt, or whatever it is. Those are the 4 categories. But that's how I see it in these families. And the adults, of course, we know, but we don't go to that empathy a lot. Like families in my community do, but in general, society doesn't teach us that. Like they're not like, you know, I know you hear it sometimes, but it's not the norm. It's more like, my kids are a mess right now. My kids are being such brats. I'm so done with them. Instead of like, gosh, my kids are really struggling right now. They are missing their friends so much. And they're really trying to figure out how to communicate their needs in a healthy way. And I'm trying to figure out how to meet their needs the best I can. And we're trying to figure out how to be a creative team as a family. That's the language you hear less. So that's what we work on, to help people to have that mindset of like, yes, it's a challenge. Yes, we are grieving, right? Like we fully are grieving our old life. And you can be grieving and sad and also be creative and optimistic. Like those 2 things can live together. And being grieving and sad is part of the wholeness of life, right? It's like life does not exist without those emotions. So teaching our kids, like, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be hurt right now by this whole thing. And at the same time, let's figure out how we can get creative, how we can see the light here, how we can invite your friends to come down to the field from the neighborhood and play football tonight, or how are you going to get creative? Like that's all these seniors that are graduating from college right now. My heart just goes out to them, but man, they are for sure going to be one of our most creative generations, because they have to be. Otherwise you will sink to the bottom of that class, right? Like you either get called up into creativity or you sink down and become a victim to the circumstances. So it's a good call to action. And at the same time, it sucks.
So well put.
That's the quote you're going to want to have for the social share.
Well, I love it. I love that you're out there to help families. I think it's really important. I think, I always say everyone's a lifelong learner. Like we don't know enough about anything to, so all parents should be reading, should be learning, should be taking classes. We all need the help. And it's ongoing. So coaches like you, like me, I think it's awesome. I know that it's not easy to kind of put yourself out there and to help everyone all day long. And sometimes you just want to go home and lock yourself in the bathroom and cry, but I'm appreciative of the work you do. I hope many people sign up for your class because I think everything you're saying is spot on and helpful.
Oh, thank you. It is a crazy time to be a coach, isn't it? Because there are days when you're like, can I really tell you how to be positive? That's so good that you said that, because it's true, right? It's like everybody's, and you do it, right? It's great. We all have our good days and our bad days. So I appreciate you girls, and it's been so much fun to be here, and this is a good chat.
Yeah, you are amazing, Wendy. I always love talking to you, and you're so inspiring and so positive, and really proud of you. And you're just doing an amazing job. And I'm going to sign up for your class.
Yes.
I can't.
Me too, Wendy. I'm signing up I'm going to have you come do home visits.
Do it. It's free, you guys. Yep, right on the homepage, freshstartfamilyonline.com. I'll send you a prep kit right away. It's going to be so good. 10 minutes a day, you guys. We can do this. I know everyone's busy, but 10 minutes a day, pop in your earbuds. You don't even have to watch me if you don't want. You can just listen right to your email inbox every single morning. Easy.
I love it. We'll put all those notes on the podcast notes so everyone can check it out, and we'll put it on Instagram too.
Thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy. Have an awesome day. Say hi to Terry and the kids.
I will, girls. Thanks so much.
Bye. Thank you.